Hey, Being at Work listeners, welcome back to another episode. This is your host, Andrea Butcher, and this may be the most vulnerable and important episode we have released to date in the 6 years of the show. I'm joined today by my dear friend who is so special to me. I do have a lot of friends, but only this friend would I reach out to have this conversation with me at this point in my life, and that is special. Jason Barnaby is a fellow coach, facilitator, speaker extraordinary. I mean, the guy is just genius when he gets on stage. He's a business leader, but most importantly, Jason is a human who is doing the hard work to understand himself so that he can be the gift that he was designed to be in this life. Jason is the founder of Firestarters and specializes in actionable inspiration. You'll see why those words are so perfect for Jason as he shares his story and talks today. But what you really need to know about Jason right out of the gate is how he's leaned into his own journey of self-discovery over the last couple of years in particular, and the transformation that's occurred as a result. So listen in as we cry a little, laugh a lot, and maybe curse some too. I mean, we are two friends, two coaches, two humans who care so much about each other and helping others talk openly about their own struggle on the journey to be more of who they already are. So here we go. This is our very own transformation at work. Check it out. Jason.
I'm already crying.
Jason, we're 2 minutes in.
I know.
I said we might cry a little. Maybe I said we'll probably cry a lot.
I know. Yeah, that was good.
We are emotional beings, aren't we?
We sure are.
Damn, we've been through some stuff the last couple of years.
Ooh, muck and the mire and the shit and all the things.
And the goodness and the wins and the butterfly moments. So there was a time, because you and I have done some work, but let's go back to, we've known each other for years, and we have some uncanny things in common. We were born on the same day.
Yep.
February 1st. So that, from a human design perspective, that means something, because that is purposeful. We share an Enneagram number. We are both living our best 7 lives.
Gotta say it with jazz hands.
So we've known each other for years. We've always had a great connection and been very supportive of each other and encouraging of each other. We've done some work together and collaborated on some things over the years. But when was that? Maybe 18 months ago? When was it? We were having lunch and we both were talking about how in our marriages we were really struggling.
Yeah, I don't think it was 18 months. I think it was closer to like a year ago, because there was a lot that was happening.
It couldn't have been
in the fall of 23. Really?
I think maybe it was the summer of 23. Yeah, because a year ago I had moved out.
Oh, that's right.
I know time flies, but you're right. I mean, probably like maybe 16 to 18 months.
Sure.
How do you remember that conversation when we were both like, I am really unhappy?
I just remember like saying it out loud, because anybody out there that's listening that knows about Enneagram 7s, we are masters. I mean, masterclass givers of how to avoid and spin. And there was just no more spinning. And for me, I would imagine that you have this as well. I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but because of our personalities and who we are, when we show up, people expect us to be the life of the party, the sunshine on the cloudy day, all the norm of Cheers, right? So for me, it just felt really, really great to be able to not have that pressure. And I don't have that with a lot of people. And so just to be able to like say it and sit in it and not like use that as one thing on a really long list, but like it felt really good to be, and I didn't know at the time. I don't think either one of us knew. We didn't like preview that conversation like, hey, let me tell you about the struggles I'm having in my marriage and let's have lunch and talk about those things. And I remember when we had that conversation, it was like, I find so much comfort when, and I see this in my coaching and stuff and leadership development and the work that you and I share and do. But when other people around the table, in air quotes, go, oh, you experience that. Oh, me too. Like there's so much like, oh, I'm not alone. And
Yeah.
that's what I remember.
That's where we were. That's where we were. We were both in a very dark place. And it's hard for us to sit in the darkness, as you said. And so I told you in that conversation that my therapist had suggested this book, Healing Through the Dark Emotions.
Fuck that book, and thank you for telling me about that.
The wisdom of grief, fear, and despair. And we're both like, oh my God, it's awful. But I'm so glad we went through that together. I mean, the insights that emerge, the making friends with the dark emotions, the anger, the despair, all of it. I mean, we did it. We have done the work. So here, like fast forward, I want to dig into the journey. And here we are 16, 18 months later. And we are in very different places, but we are both in this place of revival, of like coming back. I chose to exit my marriage. You chose to lean in and are feeling so much reward and enjoyment and goodness in that. And I'm in such a good place.
It is interesting to look back on that conversation and see like, it kind of reminds me of that Robert Frost poem of taking the road less traveled. And I don't know which road that is for you or for me, but it's like not saying that I took the one less traveled or you did, but I think we both took, I don't know, I think maybe we both took the road less traveled in our own ways. You know what I mean? Because I think that there are some people out there who are like, well, this is awful, but at least it's awful that I know, so I'm going to stay. And there are other people who are like, there's no way I want to stay in this and I gotta go. And not even a hint of trying to reconcile or lean into that. And then the other thing, like what, at least for me in my particular journey, was the like where is my ownership of where I am? And that was an aha moment for me because I realized that I had for a number of months had been having a one-sided conversation with the wrong side of the equation. I was not involving my wife in the conversation. And I mean, a lot of it too stemmed from what I know now of about 2.5 years of being pretty severely depressed off and on and not even realizing it. And so, once you get a little bit of clarity too, and you start to, as I said recently in a post, I was talking about coming out of the smoke. And, it, when you're in the smoke, all that's happening is you're choking and your eyes are burning and you're disoriented and you just want to get out as soon as you possibly can. But then when you do and you have that clarity, it's like, oh, okay. Well, I just needed to move my chair because I'm sitting in the path of the wind. So yeah, it's been I think it's been very interesting as we have touched base and stayed in contact. And I just remember when I told you, like, I think it was through a voice text too, I said like, we're going to dig in and work things out. And I remember you responded and you're like, that's great for you. I'm not doing that at all. And I was like, oh, and I didn't expect it And I loved the conversations that came later from that and what we both learned.
Well, and isn't it interesting, Jason, as I listen to you, particularly like where's the ownership for me in coming out of the smoke? Like, it's so interesting how I was experiencing such similar things, but did end up taking a different path. And here's what I love about that. And part of why I wanted to have this conversation is so much of the time we think about transformation as exit or moving on from, and you leaned into. And here's the thing, like, I often say, I don't think we can make any really bad decisions. I think we make the best decision we can at the time with the information that we have and where we are. And that's what both of us have done. The ownership for me in my marriage, and I've talked openly about this on this show a lot, is I was not being myself in my marriage. I very early in that relationship, there was a situation that caused me to like put up a guard, and it was just easier to adopt this persona. And I couldn't do that anymore. And whenever I started being honest about what I really wanted and my needs, that just like freaked him the fuck out because that is not who I married. So it was my fault that I hadn't been honest about who I am and what I want. And I would capitulate. I would pretend because it was just easier to keep the peace and the nice family persona.
I don't think I've heard that piece of your story. And the place that I was in was like I said, I was having a one-sided conversation. When I finally opened up, I mean, I literally said, I don't want to be with me. How can you want to be with me? And I was just convinced that she didn't. I mean, who would? Like, it was awful. I was depressed. Our house was in foreclosure. Business was terrible. I'd applied for multiple jobs and gotten nothing. I didn't feel like I had a North Star. I didn't feel like I had direction. I didn't feel like I knew which way I was going. And when I finally had the conversation, I was like, I'm not happy. I can't imagine that you are. Don't you want to leave? And she said, well, I'm not happy either. And I don't want to leave. And I'm like, you don't? And I had convinced myself that she did. And so again, I wasn't including the most important partner in the conversation. And so kudos to her for saying that and what happened after, because I had to face the fact that we were in foreclosure was my fault, 100% my fault. And I was carrying so much guilt and shame around that I was trying to hide it as much as I could because I didn't want to own up to. And I actually remember when we got the letter, I even said to her, I was like, don't tell your friends about this. Like, I don't want anybody to know. And here I am talking about it on a podcast. Like, and part of, I know you and I have talked about this year, but part of where I am and what's great about the freedom on the other side of almost losing your marriage, being severely depressed, having your house in foreclosure, your business in shambles. Like, I don't give a fuck what people think about me anymore. And the freedom that has come from that I could not have, I really don't believe, because I would have told you, if you would have asked me last year before going through all this, Jason, do you care what people think about you? I would say, no, I don't care what people think about me. And then I would whisper in my head, but I also hope they still like me. And now I'm just like, keep scrolling if you don't. Like, this is me. Like, this is me in all of my brokenness and all of my mistakes and all of the shit and all of the things that I haven't gotten right and all the junk. And if that makes you uncomfortable, you're not my people. And I'm okay with that.
And different things are going to resonate with people at different times.
Sure.
Yeah. So it must just not be their time to pick up or connect with that.
And, I'm fine with that. And, owning like what we talked about as we were talking about having this conversation, had I not leaned in and really, I mean, my gosh, I think it does say on my LinkedIn profile, I think the first line is like comfortable being uncomfortable. Are you going to practice what you preach, or are you just going to put it on a t-shirt and wear it? And I don't believe in being inauthentic. And so I'm like, well, that means I gotta face some hard shit. And for a 7, like we should have been political strategists, because we can spin anything to win it.
Damn,
And,
master
oh,
reframers.
and I had to, it's a friend of mine. I can't believe I'm even saying this, but it just came to my head, so I got to think that it's right. But a friend of mine who's been a healthy person his whole life, worked out and all this stuff. I asked him once, I said, what do you recommend to work out? And he said, I recommend that you stand naked in front of the mirror and look at what you want to change and what you don't like. And he's like, most people aren't willing to do that. And I was like, I mean, even as he was saying that, I was like, ew, like, I don't want to do that, but that's what you have to do.
Well, and in both of our situations, I mean, I think going back to that pivotal lunch where we both acknowledged things are not right in this aspect of our lives. And so we had the courage to name that, to acknowledge our parts in that. There was a reflection around, what do we want? So same thing with looking in the mirror, that analogy. Like, okay, what's the gap between where I am and what I want? Like, it takes courage to name that. We're going through the motions. We're pretending. Like, nope, I gotta just be really honest about the muck of what is and how that isn't the vision that I have for my future.
Right. And it's interesting too, because my wife just changed her Facebook profile picture, and it says, no mud, no lotus. I don't know if you're familiar with the lotus flower, but like it comes up, it's this beautiful thing that comes up out of the mud. And my gosh, I mean, where I am, where we are, you and I, me and my wife, like, there's no way I would have said a year ago that this is where.
And let's, for the audience that does not know us, let's talk about what's transformed, because here's the thing that's also interesting for both of us. So emotionally, like transformation. For me, the greatest transformation is trusting myself. For 10 years in this marriage, I very much filtered my choices and decisions in the relationship through what's going to make him happy. Like, how do I keep him okay? And so now it is like, I'm very intentional about, what does Andrea want and need, and communicating that. So I've said no more this year, and it doesn't even, I just did it 10 minutes ago. Someone reached out wanting to connect me with someone, and I said, I'm not in the best position to do that right now. Life is very full. I'm getting ready to travel to Spain, blah, 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 blah. So boundaries, because I'm trusting myself so much and I'm really clear on what I want and need, it's so much easier to set boundaries. So emotional transformation. But there's also, for both of us, there's been this physical transformation, which I did not expect. I mean, here I am, like 25 pounds lighter. Like, and yes, I have I would say, a more focused workout routine that's very much about strength. But it just is so connected to I'm loving and accepting myself in a different way. And so the weight just left. I mean, it's just gone. Like, where'd that go? And that didn't seem very hard.
Yeah, I did something that haven't done in a long time. I tell people I ran my first, last, and only full marathon. And if you're paying attention, you understand what I'm saying, listener. I think it was 8 years ago. I had a goal to finish in under 4 hours. I finished in 3 hours and 57 minutes. I'll never ever do it again. I'm glad I could check it off the bucket list, but I haven't given myself a challenge like that. And similarly to what you're talking about, I hired a trainer for the first time. I also decided the day after my birthday, so I started on this because I wanted to eat cake on my birthday, because I'm a 7. Have all the things, get all the sweets, get it all in.
All the experiences.
Exactly. But I decided to do 75 hard, which I tell people I did 75 medium hard. And to be fair, for anybody that knows 75 hard, all I did was Google it. I didn't watch whoever started. I can't even tell you the person who created it, but it was no alcohol for 75 days, 2 workouts a day, 10 pages of nonfiction, and a gallon of water a day. And I say that I did 75 medium hard because I started it in February in Indiana, and there was no effing way that I was going to go run outside if it was snowing sideways and 20 below. So I did most of I didn't have any alcohol for 75 days, but I did most of the rest, like probably 75%. And I lost 2 inches in my waist. I'm wearing a size that I wore when I was in college, which is crazy. I don't really enjoy alcohol like I did before. I just kind of lost a taste for it. I've had a couple of drinks, but I just don't. And similar to you, it's just I'm working with weights, which is very different. I'm not like, oh, well, I got to starve myself because I need to lose 5 pounds or whatever. I'm just like, yeah, I'm working out, and it same. It's like gone, and it hasn't cut, like that weight hasn't come back. And I think I lost like around 17 pounds during that 75 days.
Yeah, you're taking care of yourself. You're loving yourself. You're paying attention to what you want and need.
Instead of moving, you know, oh, this got hard. Let me run somewhere else so I don't have to face
Yeah,
it.
exactly. It's a great point. We're not filling the void like we were.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely was a stress eater. I mean, I could go through a package of Oreos like nobody's business and just, you know, enjoy the sugar high and then beat myself up for it after.
Well, and to the point about like loving myself, it's honoring. And you've heard me. I use the word trust, trusting myself, because I had this moment recently where and you and I messaged back and forth about this. I sat on my bathroom floor weeping for maybe like 30 minutes. I don't know. I wish I would have looked at the time because it either felt like a really long time or like a short amount of time, which is weird to say, but it was time kind of stood still. But the thing that was so different for me, Jason, about that is I did not call anyone or try to escape from it. And I'm so proud of myself for that, and it's such a reminder that I'm okay. Like, I got up off the bathroom floor. I went and coached leaders the next morning. It's just a reminder that I don't need to phone a friend. I don't need a lifeline. Like, I have everything inside of me. It's this reconnecting with myself that has been, that I am just starting this new relationship, and it's so different, and it's so honest, and it's for me for the first time in my life. I am captaining my own ship in all aspects of my life. I'm doing the business I want to do. I'm hanging out with the people I want to hang out with. I'm dating who I want to date. It just feels like freedom.
And what I love about what you said is I think so often in this world where we have so many potential distractions, our phones being the major one. I had a client once tell me I had encouraged them to spend some time brainstorming about what they wanted and really dreaming about things. And I asked them how it went, and they said, I went on my back porch and I'm in this great scene, and I found myself picking up my phone about my dreams and looking for the answer in my phone. And she said, the answer is not in my phone. The answer is in my heart. The answer is in who I am, and being able to be brave enough to say, what do I really want? And my gosh, I know you and I both know so many people, marriage, work, whatever, who are miserable because they are terrified to ask themselves the question of what do I really want? Because to me, what do I really want? And then when I have the answer, do I have the courage to go after it? And that's the thing that I love about what we've both been through is that we both asked ourselves that question and we said, yeah, I do have the courage and I'm going for it. And what happens on the other side is you realize, God, I should have been trusting myself all along. And not that we beat ourselves up for not doing it, but I remember on the third day that I took antidepressants, and it took effect very, very quickly for me. And I know that that's not everybody's experience. But I remember walking upstairs after I had coffee that morning. It was a Sunday morning, and I was looking in the mirror like, should I shave? And it was one of those things like I just looked at myself for the first time in a really long time. I get
I love
and
that.
I looked in the mirror and I had tears in my eyes, and I literally said out loud, I was like, "Oh, there you are. It's nice to see you again." And I don't know the last time I had seen myself that way. And it was like, oh, like, here's the person that you are and who you've always wanted to be, and who you're not in the smoke anymore. You're not stuck in the mire. You're not like trudging through the shit. Like, there you are. And it just felt like, I just remember even saying that, and I was crying about it, and I just took a deep breath, and I was like, oh, it just, it's like when somebody that says your name, and there's that power because you feel seen. And I don't know if and I've never really thought about it this way before, but like, I don't know if there's any greater, more powerful experience than truly seeing yourself for who you are and being okay with whoever that is. It's life altering. It's, the word that you use, it's transformational.
Yeah, and that I think is the journey that we're all on, to reconnect with that still small voice within, the spirit within that transcends our bodies, that transcends space and time. And that's beautiful. I see you. I have a picture of my 8-year-old self hanging on my bedroom wall. It's the first thing I see every morning. And I moved into my new home December of 2023. And it was the first thing I hung up was that picture. And similarly, like, her spirit is me, is within me. And she was untethered. She was so free. She was such an adventurer. She had that little rock story. You
I
know
was
my
just gonna
rock
say
story.
she was a rockpreneur.
She was a rockpreneur, helping people find the rock of their dreams. Yeah, and so it has been really fun reconnecting with myself in that way. Yeah, because we take on these really horrible beliefs about who we are, and for me, so much of it has always been wrapped up in my body image. Like, I'm not thin enough, I'm not pretty enough, my legs aren't long enough, my stomach isn't flat enough. Like, God, I have broken my own heart over and over and over, and I'm done. Like, I love who I am. And I am a like complete mess who has no idea what she's doing every day with a gulp and a sigh. And like I said, what's so fun about this is we were talking about transformation. I'm in such a great place. And then did you hear me say, yeah, and then just recently I was on the bathroom floor in tears. I think the thing that's different for me today is that I know when those bathroom moments come, that sometimes maybe I just need to stay down there one more minute. That's the difference. Like, trusting myself enough to just be where I am, that I don't have to escape from it.
And you know what I love about what you just said, because I think this is what I see, and maybe at the heart of it where I was as well. But you said when those moments come, not if they come. And I think if we are afraid of what's going to happen if they come, we never get real about what happens when they come. And so that, like, knowing that it's coming again, and I'm okay with being on the floor. That's all right. And so I think, for those who are listening and are challenged by some of this, changing the inner dialogue of not if but when, and just knowing that it's coming, and it's okay. You're going to be okay. And I love that Jack Canfield quote that says everything you want is on the other side of fear. And we make whatever that thing is on that other side so big and so scary. And when we just sit down and cry with it on the bathroom floor, sometimes it winds up giving us a hug and saying, get up and get out of here. It's not this scary thing that's going to eat us. But we don't know until we sit on the floor.
Well, and that there's power in it. I mean, as I've reflected on sitting in that moment, I reclaimed energy because I sat there. And what I've done so many times, which is why I believe like weight came into my body, is because excess weight is because I held on to so much shit and never dealt with it. It was like, it was too hard. And I didn't do that. I sat, I felt it fully. And in feeling it fully, I reclaimed some of my own power in that. There's a lot of energy in hard things. And when we skip over that energy, we don't process it. Right? That's one of the things we learned in the book.
Yeah. And I think that idea of skipping over, it's what I did for the longest time, because I had made up a story. You know, I quote this all the time. Brene Brown's made $1 billion with this phrase, but the story I'm telling myself in my head is, and fill in the blank. And when the story you're telling yourself in your head is that it's going to be so terrible and it's going to be awful and it's going to be this thing that you won't recover from, who the hell wants to walk straight into that? And what
Certainly not at Enneagram 7.
Hell no. And what I've learned, you know, I call those in the book I wrote, I call those what if abouts, those things that run around in your head. And what I found is that those things are a lot like bullies. You know, when you punch a bully in the throat, usually the bully leaves you alone because the bullies aren't used to being stood up to. And what if abouts are the same way. And I've literally started saying out loud, who do you think you are? And what makes you so smart? And this isn't going to work. And this is going to be a disaster. And you don't have anything to say. And I have literally started talking out loud to say, you need to shut your mouth. I'm the person that got hired. I'm going to go give this keynote. I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And that's who I am. And then I'll tell you what, there's clarity and clearness and calm and quiet in my head because I've made them go sit in the corner where they belong. They don't deserve to take up the real estate in my head that they take up, because nothing good has ever come from believing them.
Yeah, and you can choose another belief. It's like the awareness to see when that pops up. Like, I don't have to believe you. I can choose something else. Let that float by.
There's a sticker that I think I may even have it on my laptop. I should probably know that if it's on my laptop, but I think it says something like, don't believe everything you think. And I think most of us do, or at least we don't give it the time. And what I love is that we have given time to the other thing.
Well, and I mean, you probably know the research, the average number of thoughts we have on any given day, 50 to 70,000. So how are you going to believe all those?
And what's crazy is that 80% of those, think about this, 80% of those are negative. And 95% of those are repeat thoughts that aren't even original. It's just shit that's been running around in your head since you were the 8-year-old little girl.
The operating system that you created to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It will be better if everybody's okay. So just make them smile, say something nice, be empathic. It will be better if you perform well, if you are a good girl, which is why like challenging, seeing those thoughts, seeing those beliefs is such an important part of it.
I mean, my parents used to tell me, go to your room until you can come out with a smile on your face. I was not allowed to be a sad kid. Rub some dirt on it. I'll give you something to cry about. You know, go to your room until you can come out with a smile on your face. I understand the intention behind the instruction, but it's also bullshit because it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to not deal with the hard things and I'll just carry that into my life for 45 years.
So it brings up an important point. So as we are evolving and growing into better versions of ourselves, people that we've known for a long time sometimes aren't comfortable with that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been such a year of releasing for me. You know, I exited a marriage. I exited a business that I led for 7 years, let go of relationships that were, gosh, that was so hard because I love those people so much. my very best friend of 31 years. Like, we're pushing pause right now. I mean, it's really interesting how when you start telling the truth and setting boundaries, the people that you've been closest to are uncomfortable with that. How to navigate that.
And like you said, maybe down the road, they will be more ready to hear that. And maybe they're gone for good. And either way, I'm okay with that.
And they have a journey.
Yeah. But it's the same for me. I mean, we have moved very far in another direction from the faith community that we were a part of for decades. And on the other side of that has just been a lot of silence from people. And I'm okay with that. I've erased some phone numbers this year. I've gone through my contacts and said to myself, when was the last time I talked to this person? I don't think they're really a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. That whole like, yeah, choosing people who fit your future, not your history.
Choose the people that fit your future, not your history.
Yeah.
Woo.
So, Jason, we both know, because this is the work we do, that transformation, it's not a check the box. We're always evolving, we're always growing. There will continue to be iterations of transformation throughout our lives. So, you're in such a good place. Your business is growing. You're so connected. Your marriage is thriving. Your relationship with your kids is so good. What is 2025 for you? Do you have a word for the year? What are you coming into in this next season?
So I don't have my word yet, but I'm working on it. But it's gonna be the phrase that has come to mind a couple of times. It's two words. I really think, and maybe I'll wind up staying with this, but I really think it's going to be vision quest.
Oh, what does that mean to you?
To not be hindered by past experiences or future perceptions or fears of what I think might be, but just like truly stepping into big dreams that are so much bigger than me. You know, because I was told once at a leadership retreat, if you have a dream or a vision and it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. And I've been playing small for a long time. And there's that Marianne Williamson quote that says, "Your playing small does not serve the world." And what good is it for you to shrink so that somebody else can feel big? And I've done that for way too long. So 25 is really going to be about what does that really look like? And then 26, whew, it's going to be fireworks, baby.
Yeah, because why not? I mean, you are up for it. You have everything: the skill, the knowledge, the expertise, the background, the conviction. It's going to be fun. Well, I'm rooting for you and your big things. There's also, I've been in this space of just recognizing how life rewards the bold and the courageous. I think we put ourselves out there. That I feel like I'm being called to take big risks, and I have with these things I've been stepping away from. And every single time, life responds with a "here you go."
Yeah. You asked for it, you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's to asking for more.
Here's to asking for more and trusting yourself. But again, it goes back to the point that you made earlier about, like, you got to be clear on what you want to even ask for it.
Well, one of my favorite quotes is, if you aim for nothing, you'll hit it every time.
Right. So what do you want?
What do you want? Here's the other thing that I would just say. If somebody's like inspired by this conversation that we've had and they're like, "Ooh, I'm going to go do that thing." And then they get, they stop listening and they're like, "Shit, that thing's really big and scary. I don't want to do that." It's just, nobody said, "I'm going to go climb Everest," and left the next day to climb Everest. It's the cliched quote, but I love it. The journey of 1,000 miles or 10,000 miles starts with the first step. So what's the first little thing that you can do? And you'll find out, like, oh, I can trust myself. And then you do the next one and the next one and the next one.
The next right thing.
The next right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think about like the exiting my marriage, exiting the business that I led for 7 years. I mean, it was a process, right? I mean, I started being like 2020, 2021. Some shit got real hard in 2022, right? With, hey, here's what I want and need. And eventually it led to the next right thing is it's time for me to go. It's a series of, it's such a great point you make because it was a series of hard conversations, hard choices, risks, putting myself out there over and over and over to finally get to the place where I had the courage to say the next right thing is for me to go.
And if you can't ever, if the story that you're telling yourself in your head is telling you that you can't have the conversation with the person that you need to have the conversation with because they won't accept you, won't love you, won't respect you, my question would be, is that really your person in the first place? Because if the answer to those questions is no, I think you know what to do. You just need to go do it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. My friend, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
It's cathartic.
It really, really is. And I also just want to say, like, there are people that I have been trying to get together with for like the last 6 or 7 months, and we trade calendar things. And you sent me that text message and you're like, hey, I think we could do a podcast about this. Do you want to do it? And I'm like, I remember I responded, I'm like, are you seriously asking an Enneagram 7 if they are up to doing something? Yeah. And it happened in like a week because that's what we do.
Yeah, I think this journey of self-discovery is an important one. I mean, we both show up very much as, I mean, we are enthusiastic, we are positive, we are encouragers, and I think it's important to be vulnerable in the challenge and to share that you can do it with a broken heart, the Taylor Swift song. I mean, my 2024 Wrapped, that was in my top 5, and You're on Your Own Kid was in my top 5 because those 2 songs were really anthems for me last year in 2024, that just recognizing that I've got this, that I am my constant, that the relationship with myself is the most important relationship.
And most of us sleep on that one.
Yeah. And really, I mean, and so we've gotten to very different places, but you said the same thing. Like, I didn't want to hang out with me. I didn't like me. So this is good. Thank you for showing up with your big old heart.
Likewise. Thanks for asking me. And the answer, just to reiterate, is always going to be yes.
Always. I suspect that most of my listeners also know you because we are so encouraging of each other in our lives and our professions. But Jason, if people want to connect with you, where can they find you? What are you up to?
I think the best place to find me would be on LinkedIn. So just look for Jason Barnaby. And you can go to my website, which is firestarterstribe.com. And the big thing that I'm working on right now and what's coming is book number 3, which is all around the what if abouts and this whole idea of, I've collected about 1,300 of them from the keynotes that I've done, all on little 3x5 cards. And it's funny because I tell people to write down 1 and they usually write down 2 or 3 or 5. And I think I can probably, just in the initial thing, I can probably boil those 1,300 down to probably 10 categories because it's all the same stuff. We just think that we're unique in our suffering. And it goes back to that me too. Like you're dealing with that, me too. And I think we're all a lot more similar and going through the same shit than we think we are. And I think the more we are willing to be open and allow that space for other people to join us in that, because we have created the space by being open, I think the more people are going to join us. That's what I found this year. The more I'm talking about these things, the more people are like, dude, me too.
Me too. We connect through our weakness. So the more we are willing to be vulnerable about those things, the more connection happens. Which is why this work we've done has been so powerful, because we've taken the armor off, let ourselves be vulnerable. So thank you for modeling that.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and thank you for modeling it right back. It's been an incredible thing to watch. So proud of you.
I'm so proud of you. Here we go. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast to never miss a Being at Work story.